All right. To the last beat, to the last bass, to the last band we funk. All right, what's up, musicologists? This is the very first live Amari Music Talk. I'm Richard Cole, and just kind of waiting. I know it's kind of short notice, but I wasn't sure if I was going to do a live stream or do something pre-taped. So apologies for the short notice on this one. But if this works out, can possibly do some more. So just kind of sent the word out a few minutes ago. So I'm gonna wait and see if we have some more people that will join us. So while we're doing that, and of course today June 7th is celebrating Prince's birthday. June 7th, 1958. The spirit hit the planet and has made a tremendous difference in all of our lives. So today is an episode in commemorating that. And just going to go off the top of the dome, just kind of talk about his music and just kind of celebrate it. Wish we could play live or play music on YouTube without the YouTube police. But again, if this works out, maybe do something like that. Maybe on Patreon. So become a Patreon supporter, and maybe we can do something like that for the next year. So here, let me get the word out once again. Yeah, so hopefully everyone is doing well. Let's see. The magic of live television. All right. Let's see. All right. So yeah, just kind of waiting. Here, just give it a few more minutes. Other than that, this may end up being pre-taped after all. Recorded live, but taped for later. There we go. Yeah, all right. And again, like I said, apologies for the short notice. Like I said, really kind of wasn't sure if I was going to do a live stream or not, or do something pre-taped, or do anything at all. I know previous episodes of back when it was the Amari Purple Talk days, I would devote an episode or try to air an episode around June 7th to celebrate, just kind of share some memories, talk about the music, and I don't think I did anything probably in the last year or two. Probably like a lot of you, still trying to process everything. And I know it's been, so many years have gone by since 2016, but we're all still trying to wrap our heads around it and try to cope. A lot of us try to focus on the music, or focus on whether it's music or videos or movies, um, that just kind of help us, you know, maybe not necessarily get over it, but just try to move forward, try to honor him in the music in the best way that we can. Um, I know there's been a lot of different changes in the, dealing with the estate and possibly how some things are being handled, especially with celebration. Um, Hopefully as we get more folks in, we can try to talk about that a little bit. Um, and I think, some of those things, especially today and especially this year being the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain, we kind of really want to focus on those two things. But like I said, I think there's different things that maybe challenge that a little bit. Um, you know, but like I said, we're going to try to keep it positive and focus on the music today. So right now, let me see. Try to say this would be a good time to play Still Waiting. Still waiting. Mm, 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 mm. Da, da, da. Or I think, or that Heat Wave song, I think, got to get the word out. Put the word out. So let's see. All right, let's see. And again, like I said, apologies for the short notice. Like I said, wasn't sure if I was going to do anything at all. Like I said, I think the last couple of years, um, when it comes to this day or April 21st, I would normally try to just kind of keep it personal, keep it quiet, let everybody celebrate in their own way. Um, so we've got one hello out there. Like I said, apologies for the short notice. Like I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to do anything, especially live, but this is fun. So I'm still getting the word out and sending it out now. All right. And how are you? And how are you, or how have you been celebrating today, June 7th, Prince's birthday? Right. And like I said, still waiting. I think, like I said, if we could play music without getting in trouble with the YouTube police, probably the first track would be Still Waiting. That'd probably be the first thing I would play. Um, I don't know. What if I well, maybe not this morning, but maybe late last night, kind of going into midnight and in the early hours of June 7th. I don't know, I've just kind of been playing a little bit of everything. Trying to stay away from Purple Rain, hoping that we would get an announcement. of a box set. You would think something like that would happen today. I know we got a few more hours until this day ends, and there's been no official announcement of a box set. But I'm hoping, I'm hoping that we'll get one. Maybe. uh, if I was to make a guess, I bet you we'll probably get one maybe like around August, September. Maybe they'll announce it during celebration. I don't know if anybody has any inside information. I will go, just still waiting. But I would think today would have been the perfect day to announce a Purple Rain box set. Yeah, but been trying to kind of stay away from that. So anything from Purple Rain, I did play When Doves Cry. I did play 17 Days. Um, Played a couple of the tracks, the vault tracks from the Purple Rain Deluxe. Today, what else did I listen to? Baby, I'm a Star. So that was it. Like I said, just trying to not play Purple Rain until either there's an announcement of a box set or until I get a box set in my hands. Let's see, what else did I play? Kind of some Parade material. The Family, played some of that. A little bit of Madhouse. One thing I did notice, there Mavis Staples' album "Time Waits for No One." That album that was on streaming, and I know I downloaded mine from iTunes, and I wanted to play something from that this morning, but it's gone. Like, you can't play it. They must have taken it off. And then I looked on Tidal and couldn't find it there anymore either. So I don't know if anybody has noticed that. If you're a fan of that album, did you notice that it's disappeared from streaming? I know the like into the summer of 2016, somebody dropped the Vanity Six album, the Madhouse albums, and the Family, I think, as well. But those have been taken down from streaming. But those items I paid for on iTunes. So since I paid for it, I guess iTunes let me keep those. So I still have those on streaming, or at least on iTunes anyway. But hopefully we'll get a maybe an announcement of some of the Protege reissues as well. All right, so we got a few more people coming in. If you're just now tuning in, this is a special live celebrating Prince's birthday, June 7th, 1958. Just one big spiritual thank you for being on the planet when you were and giving us some great music and making a tremendous difference on this planet in so many ways, not just musically, but with your messages, even trying to lead by example. Some of the things you wanted, or some of the wisdom you wanted to impart on the planet, and hopefully inspire a lot of people to help leave this planet better than how we found it. So again, apologies for the short note, but like I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to do anything this year, whether pre-recorded or live. So I thought it would be more fun to go live, and like I say, hopefully we could do something a little bit more in advance and a little bit more exciting for next year. But you also have an opportunity, jump in the chat, talk about some of your memories. If you're new to Prince, if you have any questions about certain albums or certain eras, you can ask those as well. But yeah, this is just going to be off the top of the dome and talking about memories, albums, tracks, concerts, videos. We're going to run the whole experience. And a couple of other things that's happened today too. What's this about? I guess Sheila E. dropped in Paisley Park, just kind of wanted to pay respects and was denied entry into Paisley Park. Um, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? That's kind of purple royalty. You would think that, somebody like a Sheila E. or some of the members of the Revolution or some of the members of the time or anybody associated with Prince, you know, should have an open door policy. But I mean, and again, was it a case of somebody that was in the position of they're just doing their job, and regardless of the status, they have to do their job? Was it something that management, was management involved in that decision? Um, or is there a list like up this person under any circumstances cannot come through this door? I don't know if anybody has any additional information or has learned anything since that news broke earlier this evening. I know I saw it on Michael Dean's social media. He shared the Sheila E's video. And I mean, like I said, for me, I would think it would be an open door policy. I know some people were saying she should have called ahead or something like that, but she just got off the flight and probably just off the top of the dome said, hey, you know what? I want to go pay my respects. Let me drop in Paisley Park. And again, was it somebody, just doing their job regardless of the status? Or, is there something more controversial going on? You've got a lot of things that the estate is doing or not doing, this kind of from a certain point of view, it gives the appearance that, it's kind of putting a damper on, again, what should be a positive celebration, celebrating 40th anniversary of Purple Rain. Today, Prince's birthday, we should be able to experience these things drama free. But I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I'm just trying to stay positive, try not to get caught up in the drama. There's a couple of pages, or not pages, but YouTube channels that I've looked at over the last few months that, they feel like they're making a difference and they're shedding some light on some things regarding the estate. And again, what they're doing, what they're not doing. And again, it gives the appearance that it's getting in the way of what should be a positive celebration, or certain decisions that they're making or decisions they're not making, making it feel like, just kind of making it feel like kind of going in the wrong direction. I don't know, but what do you guys think? You jump into the chat, make a comment. Like I said, you can shout out happy birthday to Prince, shout out your favorite album, music video, your favorite movie, even your favorite Prince book. There's a lot of great books out there. Probably one of the first, for me, this was the first book that I think allowed me to take a deeper dive. Because I think before then, and I bought this, I think in '89, I bought this. It's Prince, A Pop Life by Dave Hill. And, this is before social media. This is before, cell phones. Well, they had cell phones, but they were like about as, if not bigger than this book. And you either had to be a doctor or a drug dealer to have one. So before those days, I think for me, it was the albums, it was the B-sides, 12-inch extended mixes, So it was very little information, very little interviews that were done. What articles, we kind of digested those like Musician Magazine or Rolling Stone, those. But this was sort of like the first book that took that deep dive to where we were starting to get that real deep Prince history, like his upbringing, that kind of almost fly on the wall of what happened, given certain event, during certain events with different band members, that type of thing. So this was the first. And I mean, after reading this, anybody that had this book that didn't know anything about Prince beyond the albums that they had or the records that they had, and you walked around like, yeah, there's that story about him and Brown Mark, and then this happened and that happened, and you became a scholar just off of this book alone. The ironic thing about this book was they interviewed Sonny T in this book, and this was like a couple of years before he joined the new power generation, and kind of the stuff he was saying in this book. I don't know if Prince heard it, read the book or heard about what was being said and felt bad about it, and they hashed it out and talked it out and brought him into the new power generation, or I don't know what happened, but what he was saying in here, I'm surprised he got the job. But I'm glad it worked out, because that is one of the greatest musicians ever. Shout out to Sonny T, big inspiration, not only to Prince, but everybody that was coming up. That was the man when everybody was forming bands back then. He was the man to beat. Like his band, you couldn't beat him. So, big shout out to Sonny T, and I'm glad, Prince opened that door and gave him that opportunity to come in with the NPG. All right, let's see the shout outs. So we got, let's see, Neto, what's up? Yep, sharing the purple love and the music out there. And then we've got Duran. What's up, Duran? Happy birthday, Prince. Rest in power. Yes, most definitely. Definitely. Yep. Thanks for contributing to the chat. And again, shout out your favorite album, your favorite music video, your favorite book. Um, we're here to celebrate the man and his music. So I don't know. Back to books. This book by Per Nilsson, probably one of the greatest Prince scholars. If we're going to use Star Wars analogy, this was the Jedi Master when Dwayne Tudor was a Padawan, who eventually became a Jedi Knight and is now a Jedi Master in his own right. But Per Nilsson was the absolute Prince scholar. And this was one of my visits to California, 2002. Stopped off in, let's see, it wasn't Tower Records, Virgin Records, I believe. And they had this book. I picked this book up, and this was shortly before coming back home. So I was reading this cover to cover. I think I read about on the plane ride home. I got about 3/4 into this book, if I didn't make it to cover by the end of the flight back then. But this was sort of like the next level. The next level. Yeah, and Duran says that Per Nilsson had the inside scoop. Yes, most definitely. One book I regret not getting was The Vault. I don't know why. I don't know what the price point, and I don't know why I was thinking. I might have just talked myself out of it. Like, oh man, I can't pay that much for that book, but I should have. Too bad that book is not in circulation. I do have a PDF copy of it, but talk about that. That kind of took this book. That book, The Vault, came out, I think that came out in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So it was kind of like the next level from this one. But yeah, Per Nilsson, I know that he kind of stopped doing anything within the Prince realm. He is definitely missed. So big shout out to Per Nelson. Also shout out to Dwayne Toothall as well. There we go. And of course, we got the studio session series, Purple Rain era and Parade Sign of the Times era. Uh, Probably the best recommended book if you become a deep cut Prince fan, and especially if you want that fly on the wall experience of being in the studio. I think more important than any controversies or drama or anything like that, for me the most fascinating is Prince in the studio. And luckily we now have at least two volumes that at least break down a 3 to 4 5 6 at least 4 years of nonstop Prince in the studio, Prince on tour, how certain songs were created. So big again, shout out to Dwayne Toothall on creating those books. I can't wait to the Love Sexy book drops. And I hope that series keeps going. I don't know what he'll do after that, but definitely looking forward to that book as well. And let's see. Uh, I know there's so much music to cover. Uh, I don't know where to start. Like I said, so many memories, and like I said, with the weight of him not being here, um, trying to look back on those memories, uh, it's so much to thank him for. Um, I don't know. I think for me personally, kind of, kind of that comic book nerd that was listening to Parliament Funkadelic, Rick James, the Jacksons, um, to come into Prince when I did, then took me in a whole nother direction. And it opened up so many doors. Um, and not every day was sunshine, and I think that's the beauty of that journey. And, not just with the 80s, but the 90s, the 2000s, that journey, where, the music wasn't just about celebration, but it was also comfort. It was also inspiration. It was also motivation. So when you look at the 90s and when he was going through the name change, the things he was talking about, the things he was fighting for. And while he was talking about freedom in the music industry, I think for the rest of us, it's that freedom of, yeah, being your own person or being independent in wherever you find yourself in life, whether it's a certain job. You may not be the supervisor or the owner, but you have, or you were able to achieve some type of freedom, or some type of independence or respect, or you got what you deserve, whether it was a raise or extra vacation time, or maybe it was a promotion. Like I said, maybe not necessarily supervisor or owner, but it was something that allowed you to live the best life that you could live. And again, the rest of us, wanting to start your own business, or again, fighting for your own ownership of something that's not necessarily art or IP, but maybe owning a house, maybe owning a car, or some type of financial security. Maybe that his journey inspired you to do that as a fan, to do that as well. So I'd say, like I said, there's so much to thank him for, and so many memories along that line. And you know, I think the people that, not only people that were close friends, I would say even close as, to become more family than even my own family sometimes. Um, Probably never would have met them had it not been for either Prince music being that common ground, or again having that music inspire you to go in a certain direction that those people were able to come into your lives. Um, and then let's see what we got. Mama asking, do you remember where you were when you got the news that he passed? Yeah, I was here at home and I was getting ready for work. And it was a family member that told me, like, I had something on the news about Prince, that, that he passed. And at first I didn't want to believe it because, I mean, on top of all the people we were already losing that year, as far as celebrities, the magnitude of people losing. At the same time, there were also these hoax that were going on too on social media. You wake up in the morning and says so and so passed, and you do the research, you start looking at TMZ, you start looking at CNN, and you find out that it's not true. But usually that's what I do whenever there's some news like that. Then I start cross referencing the sources. So yeah, I jumped on CNN and the news outlets, and yeah, there it was. Ah, if it was up to me, I probably shouldn't have gone to work that day. But sometimes that's just kind of how I process things. It's hard for me to sit quiet and mourn, or if I'm by myself, I can mourn or whatever. But usually I gotta stay focused to cope. So I guess on the one hand, going, but the type of job that I was working at that time, really in hindsight, probably should have just stayed at home that day and just dealt with it. It was hard for some, close musician friends of mine too, to, you know, kind of text him back and forth. I texted one and he was like, man, I can't process it right now. So I, let him have his space. And the other one, it was that kind of in between the texts, sort of that telepathic thing where it's like, yeah, it was heavy. It was heavy. But I guess going back to something more positive, I guess going back to my first exposure to Prince was July of 1978. And it was kind of in and around, I think maybe the 4th of July. It was that 4th of July week, kind of that week before and that week after. And back then, we didn't have central air. We had to have the windows open, fans going, and sometimes that wasn't enough. And it was just because it was just those summer temperatures that year. I had a hard time sleeping. So I would turn the radio on real low so it didn't wake up anybody in the house, but that would kind of try to help me go to sleep a little bit better. And that late at night, they would have, how you had those uninterrupted blocks of songs, it's commercial free radio, or that commercial free block of songs. And so when I would turn it on, it's right in the middle of that. So, if I would hear, maybe Bootsy Collins, um, Heat Wave, who else, Peter Brown, something like that over, in that block. And then right in the middle was Soft and Wet, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the song title. I didn't know who the artist was. I kind of thought it was a band. Um, but I knew I liked it. I liked the groove a lot. And just within that 2-week window, and then I didn't hear the song anymore after that. But fast forward to 1979, and it was holiday family get together, I think right around Christmas. And my uncle, who, I look up to, in fact, probably why I'm interested in music in general and photography is because of this uncle. And he was always telling me about records because I mean, this was the cat that I wanted to be. Like he had every record on earth and knew everything about every artist and everything on earth. And he would be that guy that would, all of the other, male relatives, everybody sitting around and drinking and just laughing and joking. And he's playing all the blues records and he's got all the stories on all the blues records or whatever record. And I knew then that's the cat that I wanted to be, if nothing else. I mean, I don't have as many records, but I've got as much knowledge as I can accumulate and try to share it with you guys on this show. But anyway, it's one of these get togethers, and he has the second Prince album. And during this time, I'm like knee deep into Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. Because, like I said, the Jacksons was sort of my top, group. Michael Jackson, top solo singer at the time. And I was knee deep into Off the Wall. And he's trying to tell me that this cat and this album was better than Off the Wall. And then and there, I didn't want to hear it. It was one time I probably disagreed with him. I'm like, nah, I don't want to hear it. No, he's great. He plays every single instrument. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. No, but it's like, nope, I don't want to hear it. And I didn't want to be bothered with it until fast forward to 1981, again, summer. Well, the holiday thing was around Christmas, but summer 1981, one of my best friends down the street, I had this pretty decent component set that I got one Christmas. And he would borrow records from other people on the block or from wherever and bring them over to my house. And he would bring like some blank cassettes and dub a tape, from my component set. And one day he pops in with Tina Marie's Irons in the Fire and Prince's Dirty Mind. And I looked at the Dirty Mind. I saw I was like, nah, I don't want to be bothered with it. Nah, I don't want to hear it. Whatever. I think even when he taped it, I think I even left the room that I didn't want to bother with it. Like the Tina Marie, I took to instantly. Like I always pride myself. I became a fan of Prince and Tina Marie the same day. Well, it took maybe another week or two for the Prince one, but they were brought to my house the same day. And he made the tape. And when he left, he took the records, but he forgot the tape. He left the tape behind by accident. And so, like, I don't know, maybe like a couple of weeks go by, and it's a Saturday afternoon. I'm bored out of my skull because I'm broke. I'm like still 15, so I don't have a car or anything, nowhere to go. None of my friends had cars or anything. So, I'm just sitting in the house, just kind of bored this one Saturday. And I played all of the records I had. So, and I just was in the mood to listen to something new and different. So I was like, oh, there's that tape that Marvin left behind. So I popped the tape in. So I listened to Tina Marie again. So I was like, cool. I still like that one. And I was like, let me go ahead and play the Prince one. So I flipped it over, played Dirty Mind. And what I liked immediately, I liked the new wave because I was listening to new wave at that time. During that period on a Saturday night, you would have on one channel, it was Saturday Night Live. So we're talking Eddie Murphy era Saturday Night Live. After that, I'd switch to like channel 11, watch the Three Stooges. And then after that, this show called Don Kirshner's Rock Concert would come on. And this is pre MTV days. Like this is where you could see all the rock acts, sometimes a lot of the R&B acts too. And sometimes they would play live. Sometimes he would show music videos. And so I would get into groups like the Cars and the Police, just watching those shows, Talking Heads, Tom Petty, all of that just from watching this show. So I kind of like new wave just based on that. So when I play Dirty Mind and I hear the title track and it's got that kind of like, okay, that's okay. I kind of feel that. Okay, I like that. And then the next song, When You Were Mine, that kind of had some Beatles thing. And I was a Beatles fan since I was 10, even though wasn't listening to them as much by the summer of 81. I was still like listening to Paul McCartney or something like that. I did buy Double Fantasy by John Lennon, but I wasn't listening as much as I was when I started. But I was like, okay, so he knows something about the Beatles. I kind of like some of the chord changes, some of the arrangement. I like that. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then the rest of that side one I liked, and then flipped it over, and then Uptown. I was like, okay, all right, I like that. And then when it got to Head, the rest is history. Bonafide Prince fan for life. And of course, as the rest of the album plays, Sister was a big shock, but Party Up, it kind of had that, anti-war thing, and which I picked up on, like I said, listening to the Beatles or, John Lennon, or learning about a lot of those groups from the 60s and early 70s, that did that type of thing in their lyrics. And I was like, okay, so, he's just not your average, he's just not talking about one thing all the time. It's like there's a worldliness to him that is like, okay, he's aware of what's going on in the world. And while we're kind of at a period where I don't even think we got to the message yet. Was that 80? That might have been 81 or 82. But the message by Grandmaster, that hadn't come in yet, quite yet. So it was cool to hear an artist kind of talking about these things that wasn't Gil Scott Heron. It was nice to have that for my generation. So that was the thing that hooked me as a Prince fan for life. So that summer of 81, heard Dirty Mind album. A few months after that, Controversy single drops. And when I heard that on the radio for the first time, man, I think for some reason they played the album version. Because I remember just kind of sitting in my room like, I already liked the track. I was like, oh, this is different. Okay, I like it so far. And then it kind of shifts gears and it goes into the Lord's Prayer. And it's like, this dude is bold. he put that in the middle of this song. Woo. And then the whole, people call me rude, wish we all renewed, that whole bit too. I think radio ended up just kind of cutting that or just playing the single version because of the Lord's Prayer and the bit afterwards. But that really made you want to go out and get the album. And again, you got, the love and the sex stuff, the traditional R&B stuff. But you also, like I said, just the, Ronnie Talked to Russia, Annie Christian, it's like, again, not a lot of artists were continuing to talk about that stuff. Marvin Gaye had done In Our Lifetime, which is probably the deepest album you need to hear right now. But that album didn't get a lot of airplay. It was, it was a commercial failure. But here's Prince, kind of in that same lane, but he's got his finger on the pulse of the generation. He's taken his sound far to the left, and given us something new with it to draw us in. And again, like I said, just that. And I think right same time, The Time drops their first album. And this was sort of the beginning of, okay, this is kind of like what we were getting with Parliament, Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins, later generations, the Wu-Tang Clan, that kind of multi-talented, everybody's got an album. Like, this is a movement now. This has become a movement. And I would say that was the beauty of coming up in that era, is because this was the beginning of a movement and we were all jumping on board with it. And 1999 was sort of that peak. You could say Purple Rain was a peak too, but Purple Rain was that thing to where, okay, he doesn't quite belong to us anymore. It's like, yeah, he had some hits. Yes, he was crossing over, but it still felt like it was this cool thing to listen to Prince. Like, yeah, it was cool. We had Lakeside. It was cool. We had Cameo. It's cool that you can listen to the Police or the Cars or the Talking Heads. It's cool you can listen to Rick James, but the stuff that Prince is doing and how it sounds, it was like underground, but there were people that were aware. But I think it was Purple Rain that kind of made everybody aware. And he sort of became like superstar at that point. So again, for those of you that are just tuning in, like I said, this is the Off the Top of the Dome Prince celebration. Again, apologies for the short notice again, but we'll, this is fun. This is first time doing a live stream, but like I said, if you're joining us, welcome. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're longtime listeners, welcome back. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also become a Patreon supporter. We also got the chat line open. So, drop a line on what, say happy birthday to Prince. Tell us about your favorite album. If you're kind of new to the whole Prince thing and you got some questions, if I don't know the answer, trust me, the Amari Music Talk listeners have the answer. And if you're lucky, they may send you even a MP3 of something that we've never had before. So yeah, by all means, just jump in. Like I say, I'm just going off the top of the dome. Like I said, it was nice to kind of revisit that memory. To add on to that, I had a chance to be a guest on the Freakopotamus podcast. We did that sort of reaction to the Q&A of the 40th anniversary screening of Purple Rain that was in Los Angeles. Of course, shout out to the host, Russell. Shout out to Tanya. Shout out to Olga. There were guests on the show as well. That was a great time. One of the takeaways for that, because that panel basically had all of my other favorite, people in the Prince universe. You had Jill Jones, you had Jimmy Jam, Andre Simone, David Z, Jerome was there. And just kind of as I was watching that Q&A, just that energy, because it's, for me personally, I think all of those individuals had an influence on me just as much, and sometimes if not more, than Prince did. And it was just good, it was just something about that energy. I think that, I don't know, it was kind of in some ways inspiring to me. Like, I feel like I want to go create something now. Also too, just that energy is kind of like how, there's somebody you haven't seen in a long time and you catch up and you just talking about the old days and the early days. And it's not like you want to go back to those old days, but it was just nice to remember the positive energy from a certain period, that type of thing. So having that, from those specific artists, producers, creators, just down to, Jerome, and even, Jimmy Jam, along with The Time. And even stuff, with Jam and Lewis, like the Control album. um, there's, like I said, there's friend of mine, like I said, and we were friends like high school, but again, we were kind of like these comic book nerds, But like I said, but I was into the Rick James and all the Solar Records artists and Parliament Funkadelic and stuff like that. And was kind of in the beginning of wanting to do music in a way and maybe trying to write a song or two or something like that. But it was that, when What Have You Done For Me Lately dropped. And I think a few months before then, we were just talking and I said, I just want to have a band and do something. And as all these years that I've known him, I never knew that he played keyboards. And he's like, yeah, I just want to play keyboards and stuff. And I'm like, oh, word? Cool. And, we started a band, but like I said, we didn't have a direction. We didn't have an image, but it was that day that What Have You Done For Me Lately dropped that the songwriting partnership began. And there's something that Jill Jones said in that Q&A panel that I want to touch on in a minute regarding that. But none of that, like I said, none of that would have taken place because I think that was the beginning of us wanting to be like the Black Lennon and McCartney or the next Jam and Lewis. I mean, our image, we tried to pattern after Jam and Lewis. It was kind of like a cross between Jam and Lewis and Miami Vice. So it was kind of a mashup, if you can imagine. One day I'll post pictures. But like I said, none of that would have happened had I not been so entrenched, or if he hadn't been so entrenched as a Prince fan. It like we wouldn't be that type of close today if it wasn't for that type of thing. We don't write songs or anything together anymore. And which in one way it's a bit sad, but again, there's something that Jill Jones talked about, and this was in regards to her own career, to where, Prince sadly kind of kept her hanging on this string, or kept having the carrot in front of her, so to speak. Just kind of me making up an analogy or paraphrasing the point of what she was making. But she was telling this as a cautionary tale to anybody, regardless of age, if you want to, whatever it is that you want to do in life, but mainly if you want to be in the music business. And while you would think having somebody like Prince would be this, like your life is set, your career is set, it's all, you know, smooth sailing from there. And it's not, it's like the way he basically, again, kept that carrot in front of her. There's so much momentum. And it's not, and you could be the most talented person on earth, but if you don't have that momentum, if on your side, if you don't have that awareness of when to stay, when to go left, when to go right, do you need to keep hanging around this person or people or whatever? And it's kind of like you need to make your own move. If your instincts tell you you need to make that move, make that move. Don't wait, because the gist of it, you could end up like that. And when you lose that momentum, again, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you are now left at, navigating the consequences of certain decisions and trying to figure out how to have a happy life despite of what was lost, or maybe, or trying to figure out, was it meant to lose that because your life is better now, or you found that happiness, or you went on a totally different journey and hopefully you found that happiness. So, that kind of hit home for me, because I think that's kind of, in some ways, kind of my personal journey, to whether it's a certain loyalty, or a certain responsibility. Now, certain responsibilities, like I said, there's nothing wrong responsibility. But the key thing to remember, it's never at the expense of what your divine purpose is. And that's all of us, every single one of us that are here. And, you know, even our children, so to speak, we get caught up when they're this small and they're cute, they're doing all these cute things, and you have to protect them, you have to teach them, you have to guide them. But what we lose sight of is that, yes, the moment they appear in this existence, they too now have paths and a divine purpose, to where, they're children of creation in more ways than one. So sometimes you got to, step back and let them, when they reach that age of adulthood, let them go on that journey, let them make certain decisions. Sometimes you do feel like you got to pull them back a little bit, but you know, they got to figure it out for themselves as well. And you know, it's kind of like being Han Solo, like, okay, well, now they're doing what they're doing. I'm still here, so let me go back to what I know. That type of thing. So anyway, lesson learned on that one. And that was, like I said, that hit home in that respect. But again, just seeing, like Andre Simone, um, his first album had a big effect on me. So it was cool to listen to that, listen to Prince's 1999 album, a lot of times back to back, a lot of times. So, and his insight, his memories, and especially the pre-fame memories, those are always great to hear. You know, I wish Andre would write a book, because then it would kind of, in a way, kind of help fill that void of what we didn't get with Prince's autobiography. It's like a lot of times I feel like, God, he should have had more pages. I wish there were 100 pages. I wish there were 200 pages. Um, 400 pages. I don't know how long the book was going to be originally, but if we only had those first 50 pages, I wish there were 100 more pages to go with that. Because I mean, I was already drawn in, and then the way that it just abruptly stops, it's like, man, talk about another missed opportunity with that. I wish he would have been able to finish it. I hope that they find another 50 pages in a drawer somewhere, that Iron Mountain stumbles upon something at some point. So I don't know. Did anybody read the Beautiful Ones? Anybody remember that book? Just a lot of it still stay with you. Again, jump in the chat, ask some questions. Shout out happy birthday to Prince. Um, what else? Shout out your favorite album. Um, what album did you play today? What songs did you play today? What's your favorite songs to play? I know I had a episode for I was going to say Patreon. Originally, it was going to be Patreon, but I decided to release it universally, and it was called "What If Purple Rain Flopped?" And in that, I discussed that one of the possibilities is that around the world in the day as we know it wouldn't exist. It would be different, because it's like, well, maybe the album would have sold, but the movie would have tanked. But, because the movie tanked, that's a lot of money lost, and the stakes are even higher. So I kind of reckon that, okay, so he's taking back Dance Electric. Um, you may not hear this song in Around the World Today. You might hear this one on the album. This song might be a B-side, that type of thing. So originally, I was going to do just a Patreon special just talking about what that album might be. So I did make a playlist and I titled it Around the World in a Day variant. And I'm going to run through that playlist. And if you have a different idea for a playlist, drop that in the chat or drop that in the comments. But my Around the World in a Day variant would include Around the World in a Day, The Dance Electric, America, Condition of the Heart, and She's Always in My Hair. Now, if that could fit on one side of the vinyl, cool. If not, like I've got the 12-inch of She's Always in My Hair. If you got to shorten that to the single version in order for it to fit on a single vinyl side, that might have to be the reality of that. But that side one, Around the World in a Day, The Dance Electric, America, Condition of the Heart, She's Always in My Hair. And then side two would be Paisley Park, Pop Life. Of course, I got the Fresh Dance Mix again. If we got to shorten that to the single edit, then shrink it down to the single edit. But Paisley Park, Pop Life, Temptation, and then it would end with The Ladder. So no, actually, yeah. So keep the Fresh Dance Mix, because then that vinyl side would be long enough for just those 4 songs. Because I have my 3 picks for the B side. The B sides would be, and I can't remember what singles, but say for instance, Dance Electric would have been the first single. Then Raspberry Beret would have been the B side. Then She's Always in My Hair would have probably been the next single. Then I would have had 100 Miles Per Hour be the B side. And then maybe Pop Life for the 3rd single. And then the B side would be Baby You're a Trip. So in another universe, in the multi-universe, because I am Kang, but in the multiverse, if Purple Rain flopped and the stakes were even higher for the next album, then that's what Around the World in a Day would sound like. All right. What's up, Kyle? Welcome to the show, Kyle. And Kyle Christian, he says that era of 1985 was the sophisticated era, as he then had Claire Fisher writing the strings. Yep. Yep. Let's see. Was he? Let's see. Was he around as early? Because Around the World in a Day, those sessions were kind of as Purple Rain was still being worked on, and a little bit after. Because I thought it was Wendy and Lisa doing all that for that. I thought, yeah, Claire Fisher was Parade, wasn't it? Or the Family, that the Family. So it started with the Family, then Parade. So I don't know. Yeah, we might have had some stuff from Around the World in a Day as well. Yeah. I've got, I forget which Shaka Khan album that is, but I have that album with Claire Fisher on the strings on that one. I also have the Jacksons, Push Me Away, second song on the Destiny album, Claire Fisher on the strings. Also, let's see, Paul McCartney, Flowers in the Dirt album, Distractions, Claire Fisher's on the strings. In fact, it's because, let's see, Linda, they were both Prince fans, but they definitely loved the Family album and they loved the Parade album. And that's how they learned about Claire Fisher. And that's how Claire Fisher got on to do the strings for Distractions for the Flowers in the Dirt album. And let's see, Kyle says that Prince actually knew my late uncle, guitar player extraordinaire, Ronnie Drayton. Oh, Kyle, yes. I did a episode talking about the guitarist to P Funk, and I did a short just focusing on Michael Hampton, and I posted that last week. And Kyle, thanks again for the comments. Yeah, thanks again for bringing up your uncle. I did look him up and saw his resume. And, this brother, he's played on a lot of great records. So many to name, but I did write the name down and I did check out like the Chambers Brothers. There's a lot more that I'm going to listen to, and I'm definitely going to do an episode on your uncle. Yeah, because I mean, man, phenomenal. But when you posted those comments, for some weird reason, YouTube took the video down. So I lost all the comments because I kind of wanted to go back and reference some of your comments about Ronnie. But I did repost the video, so it's back up. It's back up. But yeah, definitely. Thank you, Kyle. And it says, let's see, the guitar power behind I Can Dream About You. Oh, I love that song. I don't anybody remember that from what's the name of the movie? What's the name of the movie? Help me out in the chat. What's the name of that film? Is it Streets of Fire? Yes. Yep, that's it. That is it. Streets of Fire. I have not seen that movie, but I remember the music video. There's two versions of it. There's a version, the singer and writer of that song is Dan Hartman. He's done stuff for James Brown. He's written songs for James Brown, and he's also written some songs for Hall and Oates that I was surprised. There were songs that I thought Hall and Oates wrote, and it was Dan Hartman that wrote them. But there's two music videos, and there's one with Dan Hartman singing in the music video, and then there's one that's taken from the clip of the film. And in that film, yes, sir, yep, a pre-famous Robert Townsend and Stoney Jackson are in that music video. They're in the movie as well, but they kind of play like this Temptations kind of JB's kind of band, and they're lip singing to that song. And then that's your uncle that plays the guitar in that. Yes, that's damn good piece of work. Yeah, I like that song, and I like the musicianship on that record as well. But yeah, if you have a chance to check out both versions. Now, is your let's see, is your uncle in that, or was he just in the studio? Like, was he in the film as one of the musicians, or was he just only in the studio for that track? Studio only. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, definitely going to do an episode. So yeah, thanks again, Kyle. And I'm going to definitely work on that one for sure. Let's see. Trying to think. Any questions? Um, See, you might dig that Ryan I album. Okay. Yeah, let me write that down. Okay, cool. Whoop. I and I. Okay. I and I. I and I know what he. I and I check out the album. I and I check out the album on. Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to think of any Prince moments. Let's see. Now I talked about. Let's see. Talked about Walter and how we started writing songs together. Um, PC Munoz, who you've seen on the show a few times, definitely got to have him back on the show. That was sort of the other, uh, for lack of a better description, as the other Beatle in my circle. Um, Met him in San Francisco in California, and that it was November 1987. Sign of the Times movie dropped, and I knew I was going to go see it, and I knew I was going to go stay and see it a second time. Back when you could do that in the movies back then. And so after the first showing, went to go take a bathroom break, everything, and I'm washing my hands and this cat because I was going to the Academy of Art college, but I was living on the University of San Francisco's dorms, living there. They had a special arrangement because the academy, they had like apartments, but then you had to be like, I think was it third? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, you had to be like third year student in order to live in those apartments. To live in those. So for the first couple of years, I was in that the USF dorms, and he was an actual University of San Francisco student there, and he was like, "Hey, you go to USF," and me, I'm North St. Louis. Anybody tries to get the drop like that on me, I'm like, "What?" you know, who, what, who you? No, what's your ID? But he's like, yeah, I live, I go to the school there and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So you here to see Sign of the Times? I'm like, yeah, here to see it. Okay, yeah, me too. I'm staying to see it the second time. He's like, yeah, me too. So I went back to my seat. He went back to his, and then like I think a few days later, um, I'm coming across the campus, probably coming back. Yeah, I think I was coming back from the Academy of Art College and was probably stopping to the USF cafeteria to try to catch something to eat, and then just kind of end the day. And so he catches me across campus, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, you play instrument?" Like, "Yeah, I play rhythm guitar." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, we need somebody for our band." And was like, "Okay." Cool. So again, if it wasn't for being that deep cut Prince fan, again, probably as far as best friends, musicians, like I said, this as far as like a democratic situation, that is one of three people that I will ever be in a band that to where it's, four equal parts. You know, everybody else that I've been around or wrote with or played with or anything, it's you know, been that moment and it's been fleeting and that type of thing. But, you know, and it's again talking about what Jill Jones was talking about momentum. Yeah, the four of us should have done something collectively instead of like, okay, me just writing songs over here, Walter, and then me briefly having done stuff with PC Munoz and Mark Weibel. It should have been the four of us collectively something. And maybe it's not too late to do that before, we all leave this planet for sure. It might just them being on something I'm doing, but you know, like I say, that's again, if it wasn't for Prince, if it wasn't for Dirty Mind, Controversy, 1999, Purple Rain, Parade, Sign of the Times, Around the World Today, Batman soundtrack, if it wasn't for any of those things, like I said, there's key individuals that, key moments, in life, you name it. and again, or just having that inspiration or that mindset, you know, um, even, even taking it here briefly, Prince ballads, that have been instrumental in certain moments of life, good, bad, up, down, that basically have helped me become the person that I am right now. That journey, good, bad, or indifferent. Um, let's see. Oh no, Kyle, you doing good. You lead the charge, man. Just keep them coming. Like I say, I don't know. Do you have like a favorite Prince album or something Prince? Let's see. Big up to Miko Weaver. Yeah, I'm sure the stories that he can tell. Um, and I think kind of becoming aware of his playing. So I don't know if that's actually. I don't know. I got to read these books again, kind of refresh my memory, the Dwayne Tudor books. But I do remember seeing the name Miko Weaver on. Let's see. Uh, da, 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 da. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig into the crates here. There we go. All right. This is the family album, often referred to as the album that Prince should have done himself sometimes. But this album is still great. It still has an honored place in Prince history. And yep, guitar, Miko Weaver. So I don't know. I got to double check to see if he's actually playing on it. I know that he was actually in the band for live performances. If anybody has the family, their one and only concert at First Avenue, Miko Weaver is definitely in that band and playing some hellified rhythm guitar. And I don't think about it much, but because for me, like my favorite rhythm guitar players, um, Nile Rodgers, Jimmy Nolan, um, I wish I could play like Nile Rodgers, but um, because he adds so much. It sounds like it's simple, but he adds so many different layers, or he'll add that extra chord or two. So for me, I'm a little bit closer to Jimmy Nolan, where I could take an E9 chord and just go with that all day, be on the one, and just never let it go. But Jimmy Nolan, Nile Rodgers, um, John Lennon as a rhythm guitar player, Freddie Stone as a rhythm guitar player. Those are influences on me. And I don't think about Miko Weaver as much. And it's not because of any slight or anything, but I guess unless I'm listening to or watching the Sign of the Times movie, if I'm listening to any live concert from that era, um, then, Love Sexy, that type of thing. So yeah, then I'm, like instantly reminded, instantly blown away, and instantly inspired as well. But yeah, I got to double check to see if he's on the record for some of this, or maybe if he did some like overdubs or something like that. But definitely the family. Um, I remember when I got this. Um, I have a cousin who used to date this girl. and her mom was Fontella Bass of Rescue Me fame. Rest in peace, Ms. Fontella. Nice lady, always welcomed us into our home. And I mean, there's a lot of great memories just hanging out. I was always kind of hanging out as that third wheel, but it was just nice just hanging out at that house. Um, her brother and sister, they were cool. They were a little bit younger than us, but they were cool to hang around. And it was just nice, like I said, being in that family atmosphere. Sometimes Fontella would have some food for us. Like I said, a lot of times we would just hang out inside the house, hang out on the front porch. But I remember when I first got this album that I brought it over and was playing it for everybody. And, if like with Fontella, she just had that hit, Rescue Me. And not much, again, one of the, sort of the tragedies of the music business where, it's kind of like, again, that momentum when it gets lost, or if you get stuck in one position for too long and, it kind of shifted gears on her career, so to speak. But I kind of remember, her kind of critique on this album and St. Paul's singing. And I don't know, some of it was, that sort of having that ear. And I think some of that bitterness too, that, here's this album and everything. And I don't think she knew like the whole connection with Prince and things like that. I can't remember what her thoughts and feelings on Prince would have been. But just, you can kind of tell some of that sort of, that sort of reminder of what could have been. And then when you kind of see something like this and it's like, and I mean, St. Paul's great, I mean, like I said, one of my favorite albums. I like his solo material too. Great as a live performer as well. But like I said, just kind of one of my memories. Like I said, it was just one of those summer nights over at that house. And in addition to the fun, and like I said, the fun in the games, and like I said, she welcomed us into our home. And like I said, just one of the few memories I have of this, this album. I also had a video production class in community college once. And one of the assignments was to put together this talk show. I wish I had the tape for that. I don't know if the college keeps that in a vault somewhere, if they record over it. Oh, let's get some better students on here or something. But it needed a theme song, whatever. And just for no apparent reason, I used Susanna's Pajamas as the theme song. And my teacher just like flipped over that record. He was like, "Who is this?" And I kind of, showed him the record and kind of explained it to him. And I mean, I don't know if he became like a Prince fan, but I think he definitely became a fan of the family. So I don't know. Hopefully he might still have this in his collection though. But yeah, those are kind of two memories of the family, shout out to Prince for putting that together. I call that my other favorite band because, the time was no more, and the time is my favorite band of my generation. So yeah, big shout out to Prince. Let's see. Kyle, let's see, we got Love Sexy Tour, Madison Square Garden on, let's see, it was October 8th, 1988. I was there. Okay, cool. For me, it was the Oakland Coliseum. That was November of 1988. And that was the one and only time the four, the Fab Four were together. the only time. It didn't get to jam a note, but the chaos that ensued that week was a good memory. We went to Oakland Coliseum to go check out the show. Went to the Warfield to check out the after show. And that was a good memory. That was one. Prince was doing the splits, trying to catch the mic and drop the mic. And he was pissed or embarrassed or both, left and was gone for what felt like 15 minutes. But then he came back and, finished out strong. Finished out strong. Getting the tickets for that. We're all standing in line. This is out in front of Tower Records, waiting to get tickets for the after show. And we're outside. It's early in the morning too, because I can't remember what time it opened or how any of us got up that early to go. But we standing in line and had a pretty good place in line too. But it was starting to fill up. And I think it was Mark that said, "Hey, look at over there. That's Danny Glover." And we all look, and there's Danny Glover. He's driving by and he's looking at this crowd like, what the hell is going on? He looks like, I'm too old for this shit, and drove off. Like, I think he was expecting to just walk in and get tickets. And I guess he saw that line and was like, screw it. I'm gonna go home, make some phone calls. Because I ain't putting up with this. So that was a cool little memory of that. Oh, one of the things during the show too, what was weird, because we all got separated, like the after show. We kind of separated with the tickets too, for the Oakland Coliseum too. So we all weren't together, all of us that, and there was a bunch of us that went. But getting back to the Warfield. So the weird thing about it, like when he would sing, you could hear him clearly, but when he would talk, it would sound like, can you everybody on the walk? Can you feel it? You couldn't hear what he was saying. And so here, we're up on this like balcony kind of, and then he looks up and he's saying something to us, and we couldn't understand what he was saying. It was kind of like the Eddie Murphy, James Brown skit, like, yeah, and then yeah. What he's saying, I don't know, but just keep saying yeah. That's what it felt like that moment, because he was talking and we couldn't understand what he was saying, and it was like, and we're like, huh? And he could see us looking confused, like, huh? What? And we're like, huh? And we look at each other and we're just like, huh? Yeah, Prince, yeah. And he looks at us and he just goes. So memories that I will cherish from the Warfield in 1988. Let's see what else we got. Say Catfish Collins. Yep, definitely. Great rhythm guitar player too. That's another one. It's not out of slight, but when I hear Catfish play, then it's like, again, inspired. Definitely inspired. Okay, let's see. Let's play House Shy Lights. Let's see. St. Paul song, Let the Walls Come Down, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle soundtrack. I have not heard that, but I will definitely check it out. And then there's shout out to Stephanie Mills. Welcome to the show. Says, hey, Richard, happy Prince Born Day. Thanks for coming on live. Great to see you on the Freakopotamus live stream of the Purple Rain panel. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed being on that show a lot. And actually, we got to get Russell and we got to get the rest of the crew on this show too. So I'm going to work on that really, really soon, definitely. And bring back some old favorites too. PC Munoz, bring back Ricky Wyatt as well, and get some more folks on as well. But yep. Thanks, Stephanie, for the comment. The days when you could get tickets from Tower Records. My first Prince bootlegs, not physical copies. Walter had one years ago, like during Sign of the Times. Somehow he got there was one, I think it was from, I don't know if it was from Germany. It was a Sign of the Time show. He had it on vinyl, I think. But fast forward, this is about 80, around 89, and it was before, definitely before I got the Pop Life book. But I bought a Spin magazine from Tower Records, and I think because did it have Prince on the cover? No, I don't think it. I can't even remember who was on the cover, but just thumbing through it, and in the back there was like all these ads, and what caught my eye was a Prince fan magazine that you could send away for $5. And I'm like, huh, okay, I'll go ahead and send for it. Why not? And sent that in, sent the $5. And instead of getting the magazine, I got like this envelope, and it had like all these newspaper, like photocopies of like newspaper clippings and photocopies of lists stapled together. And like the first set of pages, and it was like, Prince live show, such and such, such and such. Prince, outtakes from Purple Rain, something like that. And it had where you could mail in, and if you wanted to buy the cassette was, I think, like $20 or something like that. So I said, well, I'll take the risk. So I sent in the $25, thinking like I'm never going to see that $25 ever again. But lo and behold, about a couple of weeks later, I got, I think the first thing I got, it was Purple Rain outtakes. And it was like a partial 1999 tour show. I don't have that cassette anymore, I don't think. When I moved here, definitely lost a lot of stuff. That might have been included with it, but that was sort of my gateway into Prince bootleg. So between that and that Pop Life book, you couldn't tell me nothing. And especially with the next thing I sent away for, which was the Triple Threat tour, you couldn't tell me nothing after that point. Like, it's just as far as my personal circle. See, now it's different, because all of you know just as much, if not more, than I know. So it's just that thing of having like minds be together. But having that, I could fly back to St. Louis and go, you couldn't tell me nothing. Oh, have you heard this? Yeah, well, we know about this Prince concert, but have you heard this? Love Sexy Washington, D.C. That cassette I still have. I still have that cassette. Yeah, but good old Tower Records. It is definitely missed for sure. Didn't have one in St. Louis, but living in California for 5 years, definitely it is missed. And then subsequent visits, like first couple of visits back, then Virgin Records was kind of the go-to, unless you went to like a mom and pop place. There was like a little tiny record store. I forget the name of it. It's on Haight. If anybody can refresh my memory, it might have been around during the heyday of Haight-Ashbury. If so, like I said, drop me a comment and let me know. The name of it escapes me, but I only have been there like maybe a few times over the years, maybe like 2 or 3 times a year that I would go to that record store. Because other than that, it probably would be Tower. And because I was kind of more centralized in the downtown area, was it? It wasn't Sam Goody. Was it? I can't. But one of the major chains was like they're right in the heart of downtown San Francisco as well. So anyway, Haight-Ashbury Record Store. Anybody knows the name of it, and especially if it had been around since the like 1960s, let me know. Let me know. Let's see what else we got. Take it easy, Riggs. And let's see, Love Sexy After Show in Paris. Yep. Raven to the. Yeah, they didn't turn that one loose. Yeah, I want to hear the original 1988-89 version, studio version of that. I don't know if they'll do like a Graffiti Bridge box set one day. Maybe they'll release that or do a standalone Rave into the Joy Fantastic with that original track sequence as well. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Like I said, a lot of stuff. It's taking me back, taking me back. So you must have a glove and 6 infinity stones because you took it way back. Told you I am Kang. Well, I've gone by many names. You know, uh, he who remains, conqueror, jerk. Wonder if or if they're gonna who they're gonna get to replace Jonathan Majors as Kang. Kind of taking it off subject for just a quick second. Um, I hear they're gonna try to get different actors to do it. Uh, it's a shame because he did do such a good job in that role. And I know a lot of people talk about Quantumania, like that was not his fault. That was terrible script, terrible execution of the movie. But one of the saving graces was definitely his Jonathan Majors acting performance as Kang in that. One last thing about that, that movie should have been an adaptation of this 12-issue series called Avengers Forever, and it should have had like other Avengers in it. Michelle Pfeiffer as the original Wasp should have been the lead in that movie. Not to say that she wasn't the lead in that movie, but we know they didn't go with the Hank and Janet Pym. They went with the Scott Lang for those movies, which was still cool. He did a good job in that, but I don't know why they didn't lead it off with Hank Pym and Janet, and why they made them, so old. Not that, apologies to both of them, but out great, phenomenal actors. But they should have adapted Avengers Forever. That's your Quantumania. And you could have recasted. I mean, yeah, you could have recasted somebody to be the variant Captain America. You could have recasted T'Challa. And I'll end it on that. Recast T'Challa. I've got t-shirts, richardcolemusic.com. Go get you one. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess speaking of comic book movies, we've got, of course, Batman. June 21st is the anniversary of the Batman film, Michael Keaton, Prince doing the soundtrack. Again, more Prince memories. Even though I became a photographer and musician that wanted to have a band and tried to write a few songs and wore some pretty cool clothes back in the 1980s, was still that comic book nerd and around some very good brothers that were of like minds. And we used to hang out sometimes and talk about comic books sometimes. And this is about, I think, I want to say about 86, early part of 87. And talking about, how cool it would be to have a Batman movie. I used to read this magazine called Starlog. And back in 1981, they were talking about way back then trying to do a Batman movie that was miles away from the Batman TV show back then. And I think kind of brought that up in the conversation. And then that kind of led to, well, who would play Batman, who would play Robin, who would play this, who would play that. We had figured as a no-brainer, Harrison Ford. If you were going to do a Robin, he might have been a little too old to do this, but Michael J. Fox would have been a cool Robin if they were going to use a Robin. Jack Nicholson as the Joker was a no-brainer, definitely. And a good friend of mine, John Rochester, rest in peace, brother. He came up, in other words, he predicted this movie practically, that it was going to be serious. It was going to be away from the TV show. Instead of the traditional, tights, costume, spandex or whatever, it would be body armor, black body armor, and Prince would do the soundtrack. And we would like, Prince? Yeah. Because for me, we all know the Batman, the TV show theme song. That was the first thing he learned on piano. Um, when you listen to, for me, when I listen to the long version of Let's Go Crazy and the big instrumental break, that definitely sounds like something from the Batman TV show, especially that. That definitely sounds like the Batman TV show. Ooh Wee She Wawa from Apollonia 6. Um, when it breaks down, when it kind of slows down after the bridge, and the second half of that song, where the fade into the fade out, that definitely sounds like from the Batman TV show. That sounds like the fight scenes, you know. Um, my name is da, da, pow, and I'm of course da, da, Biff, bam. That definitely sounds like this. So I think, so some of those things kind of found their way into Prince's music around that, especially 83, 84. Definitely, it kind of had that Batman TV show kind of feel to it. And I think too, him on the motorcycle in Purple Rain. I think some of that was playing from the Let's Go Crazy when you see that in the film, and yeah, that takes me to when you would see sometimes you see Batman and Robin on the motorcycle. Definitely when you saw Batgirl on that show on the motorcycle. Definitely, I think a lot of that influence crept in. So again, like I say, if you're tuning in, welcome. Let's see, let's do this for we can go probably another 20 minutes. Let's go for another 20 minutes on this one. Again, shout out your favorite album, favorite video, your favorite movie, doesn't have to be Purple Rain. You can shout out Parade. You can be brave, shout out Graffiti Bridge. Sign of the Times. Precursor to Elastigirl. Yeah. that girl. Yeah. I don't know. As a kid, I don't think, let's see. I don't know, maybe about when I was about 4 or 5. I might have seen the TV show, Batman TV show, but I remember the comics more. I remember, being taken to the barbershop, and then sometimes there used to be, like along with the Jet and the Ebony magazines, there would be some comic books. And and there's one Batman comic book. I wish I knew what the issue was. I wish I could remember the cover. But I just kind of I remember it was Batman and Batgirl on a rooftop. I think they were both on a rooftop, or it may have been the cover, because you would see them on the cover. So it would be like the corner boxes or something. But I just remember like the artwork, and I can't remember if it was Neil Adams or not. But the ears were longer, the capes were long, and it looked so dark because it was at night, and it looked so deep and it looked so cool. Because right next to that too was like a Daredevil comic, and like inside that comic, same thing. It's Daredevil and he's leaping the rooftops and everything, and that was at night. And both of those comics look so cool. But I kind of do remember that sort of contrast. Like, well, the Batman TV show is the Batman TV show, but the comics, the comics. But by second grade, we were all running home, look at that bell that hit that bell would hit like 5 minutes to 3. The bell would ring, and I live like 4 blocks away from school, but we would all race home to try to, to try to catch that. It was that Speed Racer, Ultraman, Johnny Sacco and his flying robot, Spider-Man, the 1967 cartoon, which I wonder if the style's a little bit different, but kind of some of the Madhouse, especially Madhouse 16, kind of has a little bit of those elements because that score to that Spider-Man 1967 cartoon. Some of it was done by Ray Ellis, accomplished jazz musician, and then there were some others that were done like by various jazz musicians. But to cut corners, to save money, it was sort of like these. Like I think you could find this stuff now somewhere, and like you can use it. It's like kind of in the public domain. It's like royalty free or something like that. I think where you can use that stuff for your soundtracks for whatever, videos. I don't know. I might track that down and do something with it. But I always wondered if some of that influenced Prince too, especially with the Madhouse and especially Madhouse 16 with that. And let's see. Yeah, Batman the animated series. Yep. Yep. Rest in peace to Kevin Conroy. Um, Probably among the best Batman overall. His performance doing the voice for that, he nailed absolutely Batman and Bruce Wayne in that contrast. To which I don't know if I might have to do a Batman episode or something and break down the hierarchy of actors that have portrayed Batman. Which reminds me again, recast T'Challa. Recast the single most important black superhero ever. I know that there's a lot, but a lot of them aren't getting that exposure, in animation or television or movies. And to cut short a character of that significance that was designed not to be a stereotype. There's been enough time, the Chadwick Boseman himself put everything he could into that role. So that way that opens the door for the next actor to play him or generations down the line to continue to inspire young people, to give young people somebody to identify with, to dress up as on Halloween, and to just have that taken away, but that's another soapbox for another type of a show. But it seems like Marvel, for all its diversity, they sure are having a problem with their African American superheroes. Like Blade's having trouble getting off the ground. It's a guy that fights vampires. It's not that hard. I mean, now making movies is not an easy thing, but the basis of your story, who your central character is. There's 3 Blade movies that came before that you can draw reference from. Not to mention a wealth of source material with the comics, but they're too busy trying to make things fit into the mold of the Disney princesses, and it's like, no, that's not what that is. It's Marvel. The women in Marvel are already strong because of their character of who they are. They've been established for 50 years or so. You don't have to force them to try to identify to a certain demographic. The character is inspiring because of the character and their journey. And if you got good characters, you got good stories. But anyway, that's another talk. I'll get on a rant about that. But yes, recast T'Challa. Anyway, getting back, let's see, Madhouse. Yeah, let's see. Madhouse 16. Use those clips from The Godfather. Yes, yes. Yeah, he jumped on the sampling bandwagon. Trying to think how early did he do that? But definitely Madhouse. It's kind of early examples of Prince sampling. Definitely Batman. I think he went way next level. Um, I mean, you kind of had it in hip hop already a little bit, but where I think Prince did it better, especially with the Batman soundtrack, it was part of where the soundtrack was the narrative. And I mean, depending on who you talk to, some say it's been executed perfectly. Some say he missed the mark altogether. But I thought that it was a brilliant concept of, okay, this song is from the point of view of Bruce Wayne. This song is from the point of view of the Joker. This song is from the point of view of Vicky Vale. And the samples in its own way, again, it's not picture perfect, but the way that the samples, they do try to tell a bit of a narrative. And I think that that was, you didn't get that till after that. You know, you then kind of started to see it turn up more in Ice Cube's stuff, Wu Tang, um, Biggie. You know, you kind of see that sort of pop up more in that after the Batman soundtrack. So I think, you know, again, as an innovator, it was like, yeah, everybody was sampling, but the way he utilized the samples, it wasn't as musical accompaniment. It was sort of to help the narrative flow or to help the song along, not like it's the basis of the song, in other words, or it's not used in a rhythmic pattern as part of the arrangement. It's part of this narrative. It's like, okay, well, this is what Bruce Wayne is thinking, and then here's the song, you know, or it pops up when it's supposed to pop up. See. Yeah, Curtis Mayfield, Superfly, Superfly. Um, I've the most recent video I done, and it's about the Stacks Soulfield USA. It's on Max. I encourage you to check it out. It's a four-part docu series. It's a four-part docu series. Um, I was talking about the Watt Stacks portion of that documentary and how I feel that it is the single most important movie of that whole black exploitation era, because it didn't follow a formula, because it's a concert film, really. Um, but what it was there to represent as a film, the artists involved, Stax as a record company, and how they came up with this brainchild to execute this concert. Um, Also, getting the point of view of the people that were there, that makes it the single most important film. Because while, yeah, you might have had, you know, say Pam Grier in her films, the first action female, let alone black action female, but the first female action hero, period. And in some ways, the template for action heroes in general. Because while you might have had Shaft, you might have had Superfly kind of in that same role as well. Um, but I think with the type of narrative, you know, with Pam Grier and her films, you had that as inspiration. You had the anti-hero with Superfly, Sweetback's badass song. You had those where I think with Sweetback, that was a, to me, a maybe a stronger, you know, the point was, it was a stronger point that was made in that film. because you had that where he got the hero lives in the end, or the black hero lives in the end. He doesn't die in the end. So that was a major first. But Superfly, to me, the film's greatness is in Curtis Mayfield's soundtrack, and it's not to take away from Ron O'Neal and what he was able to achieve with that movie. I mean, he really portrayed a strong character. My question is, did it have to be the drug dealer? You know, did he have to have that profession? I mean, he didn't have to be a cop or even a private eye or anything like that. Like with Pam Grier, you know, it's like you in this circumstance, or you caught up in this circumstance, and you the hero's journey is overcoming that. Um, because I feel kind of in a way with those films, and as much as I have enjoyed those films, sometimes it's not what you create, but how certain entities use that creation. And I think it sort of kind of programmed certain generations to where, like, yeah, it was entertainment, but the inspiration, it it didn't help us. It kind of hurt us more than it helped us. And it's become something more than just entertainment, or some people can't separate the entertainment from the reality of it. And what I think is that Curtis Mayfield's soundtrack helps to maintain that balance, because that soundtrack gives you the reality while the film itself gives you the entertainment, the comic book nature of it, the entertainment value of it, the action, the pow and the bang, and like, oh, how cool was that he did, he overcame the man with that and all of that. But the reality is in that soundtrack, and the lessons that we need to learn are in that soundtrack. But yeah, I think Prince definitely, I'm sure he was pretty much aware of that with Batman. Now it's different because you're talking about a totally fictional character. And really, to be honest, it's not just fiction, it's a modern day mythology. And where we kind of lose sight of it, where mythology, whether it's Greek, Roman, whether it's theological with the Bible, um, mythology is designed to be a teaching tool through storytelling. So comic books are kind of the same thing. It's just that it's so commercial. I mean, even more so in the 21st century, but definitely starting with the 20th century. It's sort of it's a modern mythology, but it's so commercialized that very few of us pick up on the teaching tools on that. So I think Prince was aware of it. But like I said, there wasn't that type of deepness that was necessary for the Batman film. But I think the intelligence was in, I think, capturing the psychology. And I think that was Prince's attempt to capture the psychology of these characters. Because, I mean, while you look at Batman and think, the bam, the biff, and the pow, and he puts on this costume like all of the superheroes do. But I think what makes him unique is his psychology, because this is somebody that had experienced a major trauma at an early age. And instead of, well, okay, he's this rich kid that inherits this fortune. And instead of saying, well, you know what, I'm going to take my millions and billions and I'm going to help people, and I'm going to create opportunities, and I'm going to improve communities. No, he's so traumatized that the single function in his life has become to where I am going to become this physical and intellectual specimen that will punish. I mean, if I was, I would be scared that he's going to put me in traction just for picking a pocket. You know, that that's the mindset of this character, that he becomes so unhinged by this tragedy that's his solution, is to put on a costume and be this peak physical and intellectual phenomenon that strikes fear in the heart of criminals as sort of retribution. Because depending on which comic run you read, either he catches the original killer of his parents or he never did. And so he's taking that out on, criminals everywhere. And add that to the psychology of, I experienced this trauma as a child, and I'm going to do this to ensure that no other child or human being goes through this trauma. I'm going to make the villains feel that trauma. And I think that's the thing, because again, the best Batman writers, it's not Bruce Wayne is the guy and he becomes Batman. From the time his parents were killed, he was Batman that day. Bruce Wayne is the costume. And I think, again, and the Joker, another unhinged character that's worthy of a lot of textbook psychology. Again, to get into the psychology and the duality of that hero villain dynamic, classic good versus evil dynamic. It's really the Haru and Set of that, another take on that classic mythological teaching tool of that story, where you have these two and they battle, but one never really comes out on top over the other. It's that balance that's maintained. And that's what modern mythology, or mythology in general, is supposed to teach with that. And I think Prince captured that perfectly. And those that guy don't get it. Prince missed the mark. He doesn't get what Batman's all about and all that. That's because you're not looking at it from that psychological point of view. And I think Prince did execute that perfectly. And from what we've kind of heard, Prince has at least read some comics. He's at least read the Frank Miller Daredevil. Otherwise, there'd be no Carmen Electra. It'd be, I don't know, Carmen Lois Lane or something like that, had it not been for the Frank Miller Daredevil. All right, where are we? Let's see. We are at 11. All right, so anybody have any other questions? Anybody want to shout out their favorite album or favorite movie, favorite video? For a long time, to me, Prince didn't make perfect videos. They were always kind of like, okay, here he is on the stage, that type of thing. I don't think they didn't get interesting to me until I want to say America for me. I think starting with that's one of my favorite videos. Girls and Boys is another favorite video, to where it's something. Again, it's not Thriller, it's not Billie Jean, but it was something other than him, being on stage. Or if he was on stage, like America was 100% live and so different from the studio record, that there's an energy and excitement to it that sticks. Thieves in the Temple, the long version, that's another favorite video. I think a lot of it in the 90s and the 2000s, to me, were definitely more interesting. Better budgets, slightly better concepts, or, as far as execution, getting that energy of the song across, or the energy of the performance across. So a lot of those things. So there's a lot of like 90s and 2000s videos, music videos, that I'm glad exist, and some that I would like to see the light of day from the estate. Let's see. And as far as movies, I think Purple Rain is perfect. Let's see. Under the Cherry Moon has grown with me over time. I mean, I had when it originally came out, I think I've seen it in theater like one, two, three, four, maybe four times in the theater when it came out. There was just something about it. Um, and I don't know. Can't put my finger on it, but I enjoy it more now than I did then. And I didn't think it was bad then, but what I think is that if you look at it more as a romantic comedy than a drama, it works better. It's to me, it's held up. Like I said, I enjoy it a lot better now than I did in 1986, but I didn't think it was a or I didn't think it was a terrible film. I didn't think it was a great film. I wasn't as excited about it as Purple Rain, but over the years, just watching it over and over the decades, again, that's kind of my takeaway. If I look at it as a romantic comedy, I enjoy it a lot better. It holds up a lot better. Um, I don't know if would I like to see it in color. I know that it was intended to be black and white. They shot it in color, but the last 0 hour decision that Prince made was to make it black and white. He should have lived at the end. Spoiler alert. But yeah, but I mean, for what it is and what we got, I think it was great. The album, to me, probably one of my favorites. I do enjoy it a lot more than Around the World in a Day. I like my Around the World in a Day playlist better now. uh, let's see, what can it? Sign of the Times. I would say that movie was instrumental in me finding two of the three last best friends of my entire existence. And again, it's no slight to anybody in, whatever, but yeah, the as far as that's instrumental. With that, Prince in general, um, like I said, it's opened so many doors, and especially having done this show for as long as I have, um, yeah, it's different, I'd say. Since I really don't get to hang out with anybody on the show or anything, or even some of the guests that I've had, it's always been that virtual thing. Hopefully, one day that one of these celebrations I'll make it to, or whatever, or some event, or make it to some city, because I've got some stuff in the works that can, hopefully eventually allow me to kind of broaden my horizons a bit. Um, so that would, I guess, would in that case make you guys the last best friends that I will ever have in this existence. Um, but yeah, so I mean, but Sign of the Times, as far as that goes, I say musician wise, the last. Well, let's see, I take that back because one friend wasn't a musician. So, but anyway, I stand by that, of that generation, that era, that time period. Yeah, last best friends ever. Um, and what came out? Graffiti Bridge. Uh, man. uh, I have ideas on how that could have been a much better film. I might put my thoughts together, make them coherent, and make a episode about that. Um, it ruined the soundtrack for me because I bought the soundtrack first, and I bought the soundtrack off the strength of how powerful the Rolling Stone review of that album was, because it got like I think it got 4.5 stars. for that, and I bought that album day of release, Street Side Records, midnight, and I played that album to death for the rest of that summer of 1990, all the way up until the movie came out, and the movie wrecked that soundtrack for me. It took me decades to listen to that soundtrack and get the same feeling I had when I first bought it, thanks to that film. But I look at that film, what that film should have been was a long form music video. It should have just been on MTV, and I think it would have been a lot more successful because it would have been a long form music video and not a, you know, it's definitely not cinema, but as a long form music video, I think it would have had more success. I think home video sales would have been through the roof, especially if you debuted that on MTV, probably same time as the album or whatever, or held the album until that came out. I think it would have been a lot stronger as a, you know, as a piece of video. That say you can't battle. Yeah, it's got some memorable lines in it, but I don't know. Like I said, I might put my thoughts together and say, like what Graffiti Bridge should have been, and I think that would have turned Prince's career all the way around. I mean, granted, year later you got Diamonds and Pearls, and that put him back on top, and that was a major seller, but he wouldn't have needed Diamonds and Pearls had Graffiti Bridge gone in a different direction. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me. This was fun. I'm glad I decided to do this. Like I said, I'll give you guys more of an advance warning next time. And I don't know, we'll keep it going and keep it growing. Again, thanks for tuning in. Again, please hit like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you can stay up to date on future episodes. Also, become a Patreon supporter. I still have it where even if you do just the $1 tier, you still get the free 7-day trial with that. There's lots of bonus content that's there. I still have to produce new content, so I'm going to get around to that hopefully within the next couple of weeks. But do that. But if you can't do that, like, subscribe. If you can't, go to richardcole.com, buy merchandise. There's t-shirts, Amari Music Talk t-shirts, We Funk to the Last Band t-shirts, Recast T'Challa t-shirts. All of that helps me make better content and more content as well. But definitely, if you can't do that, then please like, subscribe. That goes a long way as well. So thanks for tuning in. Be safe out there. Keep celebrating. Not sure what Prince record I'm going to play later this evening, but whatever I do is going to be funky. So until then, create your day, create your life. Peace.